So, welcome to today's podcast where I'm joined by one of the craziest Dutchmen in the SEO or digital marketing industry. He will probably need no introduction. It's Arnout Hellemans. Arnout, thank you for coming on. It's a pleasure to have you here.
Well, thanks for having me, Craig. It's always fun. We always have huge laughs, and I always get new ideas when I chat to you. So it's always good fun. So
I thought it was just me always stealing your good ideas and all your tricks.
let me put it this way: you give a different perspective than others do on some of my ideas, which then reshape new ideas. This
Mhm.
I'm getting at. I think that is, for me, always really important. This is why I share some of the stuff I'm doing, or a lot of the stuff I'm doing, just to get somebody else's opinion, but also other use cases and how could you use this. And so it's always good. I always like chatting to you. So it's that's the way it works.
Yeah, that's it. It's always good in this industry to bounce ideas off of other guys, and as you say, different mindsets and stuff. People are wired up in a slightly different way and look at things in a different way, and it's always good to have other people's opinions. That's why I love talking to everyone, and obviously one of the reasons I like doing a podcast. It gives me an opportunity to just chat, to people, and if I've got something I want to talk about, I can throw it in there and get their perspective and stuff. So it's amazing. But glad that you've seen some value in anything I've done. I always felt I was stealing all your stuff. But so for anyone who isn't aware of what you do, Arnout, can you just give the audience just a wee bit about yourself and what you're doing, and how long you've been in the industry for?
Yeah. So I'm Arnout Hellemans. So I basically help companies with their. I'm an SEO, PPC, I would say, and analytics consultant. And on the way there, I do a lot on conversion stuff as well, because traffic is one. But getting people to do what you want them to do is probably as important, or maybe even more important. So I've been in the industry, I would say, digital marketing in-house for like about a year and a half, and then freelancing since, what was it, 2009, 2008, 9-ish. So 10, 11 years, 12 years in total. And I basically rolled in, and I was taught a lot of SEO by two Dutch people. I think you know them both. One is Peter van der Graaf. You obviously know him because I think I pinged you. You should meet him.
Yeah.
And the other one is Joost de Valk, the guy behind the Joost plugin. So those are the two people who have taught me basically the first things I learned about SEO. And it was a lot about how you test, how you come up with ideas, but also how to get the basics right. So that's what I've been doing. Worked for big companies, Dutch insurer, biggest Dutch insurer brand, but also banks, car leasing companies, but also smaller. I'm a shareholder in Sidley, which is a babysitting platform in 11 countries now. I spend like half of my weeks in the UK and half of them in Amsterdam. In the UK, working for RBS NatWest and some other clients. That's what I do, and I just optimize stuff. And I move on if the company doesn't want to change or can't implement. I just start doing some different stuff. There is so much work that you never have to worry about work in a way.
Nah, I would agree with that. I think if certain, there's not a lot of good guys that know what they're actually doing out there. And I think, people like yourself with the experience you've got, someone's not going to listen to what you've got to say or not going to implement it, that's their loss, because there'll be 10 other guys waiting to bite your hand off. I think that's the way we have to look at it. But, I know SEO is a very big industry, but hand on heart, you'll know yourself, there's very few guys that actually know what they're doing, and actually test stuff and can actually, you know, they're actually in a position to be able to advise. So, and obviously you're one of those guys. You test a lot of weird stuff, and you mentioned some of the guys you learn from, Peter van de Graaf. I know Peter very well. I've built up a relationship with him over the past few years. Love that guy as well. And I'm not so familiar with Just
from the
Yoast,
Yoast.
but obviously a very smart guy, and he's got if not one of the biggest plugins on WordPress, or the most popular one. So obviously another very smart guy that I don't know personally, and I probably should try and get to know him a bit better. But so you've obviously learned from very, very experienced and well-known guys, which is obviously reflecting in yourself today. So today we're going to talk about what you do and some of the most common things that you see when you are hired as a consultant. Some of the common mistakes that people are making and common problems, and hopefully that would give people a kind of idea of what to cover off first, because I'm sure we had a chat prior to coming on here, and some of these stuff are very basic things that you're coming across on a regular basis, and it's laughable. And in some cases, certainly some of the ones that I'm experienced in, some of the stuff is laughable. You've got to ask questions. So just want to talk to you a bit about that. And obviously you've got the experience from working with massive companies like RBS and companies of that stature. Are these same mistakes being made with these big companies as you would normally see with probably the smaller companies as well?
Some of them definitely a yes. I mean, the simple mistakes are simply not looking at load times, and I think that is one where people literally are like, "Nah, it works fine for me." But they don't really look at users and the way websites load. Because if you're on a dark fiber office network, of course, your website will be there within 1 or 2 seconds. And if you check it like 10 times a day, it will probably be cached and super fast. However, new customers trying to find your website, or even Google trying to index, and you have a website that loads in like 10, 15 seconds, that's just ridiculous. And I see it all the freaking time. And I think it's purely because people don't really know that it's important, or they don't experience it, or they have the idea that it's their hosting. Well, in case it isn't. It's just the way your website is built. So I've seen those plenty of times, and I guess you as well, haven't you, Craig?
Yeah, I mean, it's outrageous, and obviously, as you say, it can be for a number of reasons. It's very easy to say it's the server and not the 75 plugins that your website's been built using, or if not more. I think I've inherited some websites, and not inherited them, but had a look at them and stuff, and all of the kind of functions are running through plugins, and some of the plugins won't update, and it's just an absolute riot. And
or them calling the same framework or the same stuff, like five different plugins that call the same framework, and those kind of things. It happens all over the place. It's not only with WordPress, it's different CMSs as well. But same goes for like simple things like images. So a common thing I see is that people think that images should be on PNGs, which is, well, there are use cases when there is like a simple one color, or just very simple, basic two-color things. Those will be smaller in PNG. But if you have a picture, you save it as a PNG instead of a JPEG or Web2, WebP or whatever, then it becomes 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, whatever times bigger. And I still see big companies, small companies, affiliates, they all do it. And I'm like, why? Well, I read it somewhere. Again, I wouldn't take the word for something you read. You check it. I noticed this way later as well. So it's those simple things. So people, please check your image sizes. And basically, with all the tools out there, just free tools where you can scale them in correctly, and even for simple website, you can shave off 20, 30%, 40% of your total page size, which is so easy. Just let's get it done.
It's and obviously you make it sound so simple as well, like, but where do you feel the problem lies with this type of thing? Is it just lack of education from a customer, or are web designers just not given a toss? Where do you feel the problem lies with this stuff?
So Greg, the two words that we can always answer our question with in SEO?
It depends.
Exactly. There we go. So it depends. But here's my take on it. I think if we go for the cheapest option, people will literally just get a theme for WordPress, install the theme, which loads in loads of stuff, and then basically say, here you can upload your images. And so there's no instruction to a website owner to do it in a certain way. So that's one part of it. I think the other part of it is the misconception that when it's not uploaded in high res, it will look very bad on a 4K screen or a Retina screen. I've heard that a lot of times, which is BS as well, especially if you just check how many people actually have a screen with a resolution that big.
Yeah,
there's no. So it's these kind of things. I think the other part is that there is no reinforcement in most CMSs that reinforce and say, do you really want to upload an image of 5 megs, or do you really want to upload this GIF, which is 6 megs? Mm-hmm. I think that's another part, and I think. Thirdly, there's just a lack of knowledge at developers' end as well.
I would tend to agree with that, and I don't like bashing developers, because the ones I work with are very good and they understand what we're trying to achieve. But I do, in the past, I have come across a few who give no consideration for what we're saying. They don't give a shit. They want it to look good, high res, everything else, and
exactly.
they're giving no shits about.
But it's basically the same as building a house. So you need a good builder that you can trust, that will do it the right way, and not one that just makes it look good, but when you start living in the house, within a year, half of it falls apart. Which is basically what you do with your website as well. So if you pay peanuts, you probably get monkeys.
I'll give you a scenario here as well. I had a guy actually the other week who offered to build a PBN website for me, and he wanted to do it to impress me so that I could maybe vouch for him and get him more work. So he done it for free, and he put up a website. He used a null theme, and within days, that website was hacked and ripped apart. And just because the guy offered to do it for free, and obviously he's not going to go out and pay for a theme for that to work for me or whatever. He's just using his time, and even just using a null theme is a bad idea. So scrimping on $39 or whatever it would cost you for a template on Theme Forest is potentially going to cause you not only speed issues but security issues and everything else. And it's, as you say, this is your shop, this is your house, so to speak, a website, and you can't, you've got to treat it the same way you would treat your house or your health or whatever, and get it checked out and pay the right rates to do it. But typically, when you're doing this kind of stuff and people are hiring you for consultancy, did they go back to these same developers to get them to change it after you audit it or whatever your process
well,
is?
in some cases yes, and in some cases no. So the biggest challenge here is that I get called in when it doesn't work, which is a bit of a pain, because if you get a proper SEO involved at the beginning of a project, basically you've got safeguards. Like it's kind of like, again, building a house. So if you just say all the doors need to move this way, and I need these quality windows, and I need a certain foundation, or I need like this kind of glass or whatever. If you don't spec it out, then it just looks good. And so yeah, I've seen that happen a lot. So if you're going to do a rebuild, just get somebody who's knowledgeable involved, and only if only it's to put it specifically in the briefing. These are the things I'm going to test. So, and they need to be this. So either use tools like GTmetrix or Lighthouse, or say with Screaming Frog, you need to have separate top page titles and all of these kind of things, which are so freaking basic, but still this happens. And somehow I often feel like people, and big companies especially, they want to overhaul their whole website every year and a half. Freaking ridiculous. Why would you want to do that? It's probably because a new marketing manager came in and wants to put his stamp on the website. It basically goes, we need new. And then what happens is URL structure changes and everything changes. And you go like, what this? Why would you want to do this? I mean, it's not going to add any value.
It doesn't add value, and it creates a lot of hassle and stress in between times. I actually seen it with a big company. They actually rebranded as well, and one day, they just sprung it onto everyone that was involved with the online side of things and said, we're changing company name, we're rebranding, here's a new website, and didn't do the 301s properly. There was no time. The owner said, this new website is going live by this specific date, and that's all there is to it. And you can argue all day long, but when someone owns a company, of that stature, it was a massive company, no matter what you say, they're never going to listen to you. And they actually had to feel the pain of seeing the rankings disappear, and then take on board what they were being advised, and it potentially cost them millions of pounds for such a rush.
I mean, it probably has, and these are the worst. Like, rebranding in search has become even a bigger issue. Like, if you properly rebrand, especially if you're a big company, people keep on Googling your old, and all the signals you give to Google are basically built on your old brand name and not your new one. It's just, in my opinion, don't do it unless I don't know. I couldn't think of a reason of doing it, but anyway, that's my personal opinion. So those are simple ones. So page speed is always like a bugbear of me, and I think the other ones are just the basic SEO stuff, like basically, what I see a lot is that people basically tend to tell people what they're doing. So the website is like an online brochure.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. But the problem is that people are looking for solutions to their problems. They're not looking for what you have to sell.
Yeah.
So you need to think from a user perspective. So how are you going to make that shift? And I see this especially with the biggest companies. There's people there that actually don't even know what their consumer is. I once asked a question this was about 4 or 5 years ago when I was at a Dutch bank, and it was like I asked them, like, okay, so why do you want? So why would somebody use your investment product? And then they said, well, because they like to take a risk. And I was like, what? What are you saying? Nobody in his right mind puts his money at risk for pleasure.
Yeah.
No reason. Even gambling, you gamble because you think you can make more.
Mm-hmm.
Don't gamble because you want to take a risk.
No.
It's ridiculous. So again, one of those things. If you want to get more people to gamble, for instance, or you basically give them in the way you communicate it is take a gamble. You have a chance of this and this making so much. Imagine that, and that's like way better than saying, "Hey, take a risk." What the?
Yeah.
So there's like these kind of things. Those are like the basic ones. And as you said, I think the biggest one that I see failing is simply redirects.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, we've all been there. If you're in SEO, you've all been called into a failed migration.
Yeah.
Haven't we? I mean, that's what we do. We fix failed migrations. I still remember that I was once called in on a failed migration, and the company or that the agency that did it employed 3 full-time SEOs.
Jeez. What, just to try and resolve a failed migration?
What?
Was that?
They called upon me because they lost all visibility.
Yeah.
And
But did they hire?
And they said, we've got everything redirected. I was like, oh, okay. And then I checked it out. You know what was happening?
It could be a number of different things, but I'm guessing they've just redirected the domain straight over to one domain to whatever. There's going to be some cock up there.
So basically, the cock up, because the domain name stayed the same, the URLs changed. They mapped all URLs, but what they didn't do was it was a multilingual website that did a geo redirect to lang is.
Right. That is.
And all of their major backlinks came to one of those 3 lang is. So basically what happened was you had the lang is, which was now say /en/ and /fr/ and /nl/. And those were different, but all of the really 100% organic links from governmental sites and all over the place, because it was quite an established institution. And so we redirected it, and like within 3 weeks, all the traffic was back up.
So you're able to get recovery fairly quickly from such a mistake?
Yep, it depends on it depends on how big the other links are. But what I basically did, I I was able to recover an old sitemap, and I just submitted it in Search Console to get all the 301s properly set. So it was including the lang is links. And then basically by submitting the old sitemap, that everything recrawled and basically was attributed to the other one. And the second thing I did was basically make sure that the using a third-party domain to get the old governmental and really big links recrawled when the redirection was in place.
Cool. So just for anyone who doesn't understand that, what do you mean by a third-party domain?
Just some random domain that you own. So in this case, I use my own domain, and I basically put a link on there to that website, and then fetched it in Search Console and submitted it to index, which is slightly harder, but it still works.
Yeah.
Now I would at that time I just share it on Google Plus. That was the easiest way.
Google Plus was good for something then. But I've heard a lot of people saying that actually. You're always hearing people saying, "Oh, Google Plus is never used" and all that. But I've heard a few SEO guys saying, in terms of indexing stuff, they used to submit stuff there and it got done relatively quickly. So a good old trick that obviously no longer works. But yeah, at least it was good for something.
And another one that I did some testing on, but it was a while ago, is just to submit it to Twitter, just that URL, because Google uses the Twitter firehose, and it uses it. So basically, create a new page, and I have a feeling they also use that to get stuff in the index faster.
Yep. If you get loads of guys that talk about indexing tools and stuff like that, I take it you would use Twitter before you would use an indexing tool.
No, I'd rather use my own. However, if you've got an awful lot of backlinks that need re-indexing, then you might use one of those tools. I presume they work simply the same way. They add links. They basically trigger a recrawl there, and that's it. Well, I don't know. I've never spoken to any of the guys behind those tools, so I don't really know. But it's one of those things. But so this was a fix which literally it took me 5 minutes to figure out. So what do you do then? You could charge them 1,000 because you can get them back in, or you charge them hardly any. What would you do?
I'm going to say that answer that I don't like saying, but it depends on the situation. If there was a potential for future work, then I probably would hardly charge them anything. But what a lot of there's a counter argument there where, because that took you 5 minutes, it could have took another man 100 hours, and it's only because you have experience and stuff like that that you're able to try stuff like that, and it's paid off. So should you be penalised because you can fix something in 5 minutes that might have took someone else 100 hours? Absolutely not, in my opinion. So the grand scheme of things, I think the price is the price, and your time's valuable, and whether it takes you 5 minutes or not, you've resolved a problem that could have potentially cost someone hundreds of thousands of pounds, and you're only charging £1,000 to fix it. So, as I say, it depends. If there was a potential for future work, I might just use it as an in personally to being able to get that other work.
Yeah, in this case, I basically did some more work, and this was just part of it. But this brought it back fairly easily. So I think I charged them 1,000 for the whole. I just basically spend a day double checking stuff and giving them some more recommendations. But I've got an even better one. Want to hear this one?
Yeah.
Content marketing agency, quite a big one in the Netherlands. So they did creative content for big brands that was basically built on virality, discovery, basically brand building, and all cool stuff. So I got their office manager called me through a mutual friend or somebody we knew, and they said, we have a problem. So I said, well, what's the problem? Like, tell me. And it was like, you can't find us. Okay. And someone once told me that this kind of client will at some point in time pop up. So what happened was, so I Googled them and they were not to be found. Brand name, nothing. The only thing that shown up was their Google My Business listing. So I'm like, ooh. And how long has this been the case? And they said, well, I've been working here for 2 years and the website's just not, you can't find it. Do you know what happened?
You're going to tell me something like they didn't untick allow the search engines to crawl the website or something like that.
Exactly. Basically, their whole website, ever since it gone live, and it was really working for big brands, this company. About 2.5 years before that call, nobody ever bothered looking in the back end of WordPress, and it basically said, disallow all robots.
Yeah.
Literally, it was not crawled, and every page was on no index.
It's bizarre. It'd be one of the first things that I would check. I've heard that one a few times, but it's amazing that someone can go so long without checking. That's the case. It's insane.
It was insane. And again, what happened was, so a coin flipped in my mind. Shall I charge him 1,000 or shall I just tell them to untick this? So I told them to just untick it and not charge him. And I've done a lot of work for them afterwards.
So it paid off.
Exactly, but it's one of those things. So somebody in the beginning of my career, basically in SEO, basically told me there will be a time when, and I said that can't be true. Like, if you're any serious on your website, you're gonna check this. I mean, obviously, but no, it wasn't the case. And even worse, it was a freaking content marketing agency. Like,
Jesus, no, that is a worrying one though. That you can go that long with that, and you'd be kicking yourself. It's one of those ones. But I have seen that in several occasions over the years. Just very basic things like that, and and I have in the past done audits and got third parties to have a look as well. Got another guy to look, going, can you see anything here? And then you come across that and you're like, fuck, how could I have been so stupid? But yeah, you live and learn.
That's it, and I think you made a very valid point. Whereas, like, if we've been in the business so long, so we should be charging for this, because a junior would probably take 2 days to figure this one out. No, maybe not this one, but other ones. Whereas we can basically go, because of the experience and knowledge we've built up over the years, basically can go in a very simple flow through the website and go, tick, found the problem, found one of the problems, and then basically diagnose it that way. I think that is a very valid thing. And yeah.
You've got to look at it in this way. I mean, how many site audits or failed migrations have you looked at over the time to be able to quickly, you've now obviously got your own process. If someone comes to you with a problem where, in your head, you're checking, this, that, whatever that process might be.
Yeah.
And whether, as I say, whether that takes 5 minutes or not, it's taken you 12 years to
Exactly.
refine that process. So I would never, to any SEO, I would say never undervalue yourself, even if it takes you an hour, or you could tell someone to untick a box, because people can sit there for 2.5, 3 years with no revenue.
Well, they were making revenue. They were just not being found.
Yeah.
So they did an awesome job, but
But you done that to the wrong website, a big e-commerce website that relied on being found online as their only source of income. I mean, that would ruin a business. Such a silly mistake.
I know. I think one of the I've seen it where quite a big e-commerce player rolled out a new website with faceted navigation, which was endless.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, where they had, I think, about 8,000 pages or 10,000 pages, and they ended up having 350k pages in the index within a week.
Jesus. That is a hell of a lot of pages.
Yeah, and the thing was, there were no canonicals, because then it wouldn't have happened. And then it took them, again, quite a while to get canonicals in place. And then you have to wait for Google to revisit all of those old pages in order for them to be taken out of the index and your canonical to be really be picked as the right one. So it was really, really freaking messy. And this is, again, one of those cases. If you do migrations like this, just get a proper SEO. If you launch a new website, get a proper SEO that will look at the 301s, that will check all of the faceted navigation stuff, and really get a proper one. Because here's another story. I did one, and we built canonicals into the header response, which was awesome, and we built a very cool tool. And the SEO agency came back to me and saying, "No, you should do it. There's no canonical, and you should do it through robots.txt and no index." And I'm like, "But there is." And they said, "We crawled it. We can't find it."
Jeez.
Again, and this was probably the biggest SEO agency in Italy.
Wow.
And then I pointed it out to them, saying, "This is how you inspect a header response." And they were like, "Oh."
Yeah. It's
like these things happen, and you just go like, "Come on, guys." Oh, that's another little thing of me is people kind of tend to basically trust the tool instead of their own common sense. Like I've seen it so often that tools, like, it can happen on SEMrush, it can happen on Bright Edge, it can happen with Search Console data, it can happen with, like, people assume things are the way they're reported, but it might not be true.
Yeah, it's how you interpret that data is the important part, and
how you validate it.
Yeah, and that's something only an experienced guy can really do at speed. That's where your experience and stuff really shows, because there are a lot of false positives and stuff with certain tools. And I'm not going to name tools and bash anyone's tools, because the tools are all great, but we do know as experienced SEOs that certain tools have certain flaws. And when it does say something, it's really not a problem. And yeah, I think it's you can't take the tools 100% accurate. It's use it as a guide, and then
it might give you some hunch on where to look, but you need to validate it yourself, and don't just send the whole list to somewhere with all the bugs and say, "Fix these," because might actually not be bugs.
I've actually experienced that in the past, where I've done an audit, pulled it off as a PDF, and sent it over to the client, who has then got their own development team, and the development teams came back and went, "Listen, that's a lot of fucking shit." And I've looked at the full audit because I didn't validate anything. I was just rushing about, and and I obviously had issues with the development agency, and it was one of those, you'll probably see it all the time yourself anyway, where it was like us and them, and
Oh, gee, yeah.
it was just a case of me grabbing some stuff and showing it to the client, saying, it's them, give it back to them, and obviously that's not right doing that as well. But as you say, you've got to validate it, because even sending that back can come back to bite you in the bum, and you look like a fool regardless.
Yeah.
So no, I think that's really important as well. But sadly, Arnout, we are out of time.
Yeah. No worries, mate. No worries.
But it has.
It was good, good fun, and I hope your audience likes it. And if they want to get in touch, it's always good. But I think the main message here is just work with somebody who knows what they're doing.
Yeah, and if someone wants to work with someone that knows what they're doing, where's the best place to get a hold of you?
Well, the best place is either on LinkedIn, Arnout Hellemans, or you can Google me. I might have a knowledge panel. Woohoo! And my Twitter account. That's I'm very sociable on those things. You can always reach out to me if I have time. I'll help you. If you need more work, then we could maybe work out a deal. We'll see. It's just that's the best way of doing it, and they can reach out to you because we know each other relatively well.
Yep. So if anyone does struggle to find Arnout, give me a shout and I can point you in the right direction. And if you're ever at Brighton SEO, he is the crazy guy who swims across to the burnt out pier and then takes a selfie. So you're probably most well known for that, to a lot of people as well. So that is Arnout. But thank you, Arnout, for taking the time to come on. It's been a pleasure.
Thank you for having me, Craig.